Well, welcome everybody. It's an exciting time out here. Normally we do this in the studio at my home, but I am out here in the beautiful countryside, and I just want to tell you all I'm excited because this gentleman named Tommy Ring is a dear friend, but more importantly, God is doing some special things out here in this beautiful place where he is building with some hot rods, and he's going to tell us about what he does. But I just wanted to first of all tell all of you thank you for the great cards, letters, and everything about my mom. And the book was dedicated to my mom, Leaving Your Life Imprint, and so you want to continue to give to that. That's a great cause. We help veterans and folks. So anyways, without further ado, let me just say that, please, if you want to give in honor of Mom, please continue to do that. But tonight, we are out here in the middle of the country. It's Thompson
Station.
It's Thompson Station, and it lives up to its name. It's out here, and you got to want to come here. But it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. And so Tommy's up the top of this hill, and we enjoy it in the summertime. We get to slide down the big slide, and we all get to slide down this huge little hill. Big hill he's got. Anyways, without further ado, I want to invite Tommy and just say, Tommy, thank you for joining us on the Kenny Mauck Show. And I want to just let him kind of express a little bit about what he does out here in this shop, and we'll show you pictures if we can afterwards. If you'll hang around at the very end, we'll take some shots here with Booker, our producer, and get some of these shots out, or we'll get some shots that maybe Tommy you already have. But Tommy, without further ado, go ahead and tell us, why did you come up with this, or did God come up with this really unique thing of having some hot rods? And he takes these hot rods. I'll let him tell you, but I'm surrounded by hot rods right now, and it's from different years and ages, but it's the most coolest thing. And so I'm gonna let him explain how he got into this, and what's going on.
So I've been into cars all my life. My daddy was a preacher, but he never could make a living doing that. It was little small churches. And so, am I supposed to look at you or the camera?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Whatever you want to do.
Anyway, he worked on cars. That's how he made his living. And he worked on them in the yard. And he was a great welder. So that's how he made his living. And they'd give him a chicken or a can of beans or whatever people do in the country.
Wow.
And he started home mission churches. But the car thing is what sustained us.
Yeah.
And so he started me he said when I was 3 and 4 and could barely talk, I would put my arm around him and we'd be going down the road and I'd be naming every car that came down the road, no matter what it was.
Wow.
So that's how far it goes back. When I was 14, a guy owed him some money and he got a 52 Chevy, the motor's blowed up. I was 14. He said, if you can get it running, that's your car. So that was my motivation. And from that, the next year at 15, there was a 61 Chevy, same thing, got that going. He got rid of the 52, 61, then a 55, then a 57, and the 57 is what I landed on the year I started driving. So
wow.
I just been into cars my whole life.
What you don't know about Tommy is not only is he great with cars, he's great. We're in front of a big, beautiful grand piano here, a small grand, I guess, whatever, a baby grand, and it's absolutely beautiful. And we'll show you pictures of that too. But he not only works with his hands with automobiles, he also has built. He's a builder. He's helped me build these things on my house, and so many people. But he also, does things with music. I mean, his ability to play a piano like this. So God's gifted him with the gift of hands to do many great things for the Lord. So I'm just really amazed at what Tommy has done. And he unlike his father, bless his heart, he's actually done very well with by the use of God giving him the gift of fixing things or building things. Am I overstretching that, or is that,
No,
that's
that's
kind of
pretty accurate.
Yeah. So, when did you first realize that you you kind of got into the music field, and you traveled, and you and your wife, and you were part of a group, and you'd sing all across the United States. But then, you stopped that. But what has it kind of been for the people that are listening, it didn't just all come together, right? It took some time to bring you to this point,
yeah.
right? What was all that about?
Well, it started out, we had to play gospel music. We had no choice. I mean, my daddy, everything was pretty much sin. You were going to hell whether you wanted to or not. You had to walk the straight, so it had to be gospel music. No choice on that.
Yeah.
But I slipped around, got in bands, starting in 8th grade, and played rock and roll. So I actually started out playing bass and then piano, and played disco when that was big, and played all the Holiday and Ramada Inn circuit once I got out of school. Got bored, sick with that, because that audience is ridiculous, and decided I would move to LA. So I moved to LA. For whatever reason, a couple took me in. It was really weird.
You just went out there?
Well, I just went out there. I was 24. And I thought, I drove around 7 hours. I was lost. I had $300 in my name. Pulled in these condos. You could rent in Arkansas for $50 a month. Pulled in these condos. I said, what's a one bedroom? She said, $650. So I said, oh my gosh. And she said, what's wrong? And I said, well, I thought I was going to live out here. And she said, well, why don't you come back for supper tonight? She was about 45, little short, blonde-headed girl. Uh-huh. So I went by, didn't know what I was getting into. On the coffee table was pictures of all these, the same actor in the cowboy attire, cowboy hat, big belt buckle, all that. And when her husband came through, it was that guy. And so we got through that night, and they said, don't go, stay, spend the night. Spent the night. 6 months later, I'm still there. What I didn't know was within probably a week, maybe 2 weeks, he started taking me. The next day, he took me around to all these stars, because he had been in movies back with Gene Autry and all those movies back. He was in all that. Well, when that crashed, he became I don't know the name, but he would shoe horses for the studios. Wow. So we went to Florence Henderson's house the next day, and all these people like that. And I thought, why are these people doing this? So about a weekend, he's taking me all around LA and all around Hollywood. And I said, do y'all have any kids? He was 75, she was 45. They said, well, we had one son, and they got real sad. Said he disappeared when he was 16. So they pulled out the photo albums, and we could have been identical twins. And I thought, now I get it. Oh, okay. It was really a God setup. Because with $300, what would I have done in LA? And this was in North Hollywood. Wow. So I think it was about 2 weeks into it, he takes me down to Palomino Club just on a whim and said, have you got a spot for a piano player? And they said, as a matter of fact, our piano player left yesterday for England. He's taking a gig. It was John Hobbs. He's in Nashville now, or was. And so I got the gig. And the first night was on a Friday night, and it was Johnny Paycheck, Eddie Rabbit, and Barbara Fairchild. So I thought I'd died with him. And the next night, it was like that all the time. Wow. Big triple acts on the weekend, old groups that you thought had died, Association, Spanking the Gang, all those old groups was like during the middle of the week.
And you're out in LA, you're living the dream.
I'm doing it. I'm living the dream. And we didn't have a penny. I mean, we were poor. We always lived in projects, rental shacks.
When you say we?
We meant my mother and daddy and me and my three sisters.
Wow.
So I'm in the middle of LA, and I'm playing the biggest thing that was going in the 70s. Wow. And that led a lot of different directions. It led into commercials and this and that and the other thing. Yeah. And I rode that thing out for a long time and just really got tired of that whole. What the problem was, I wasn't a Christian, so I was staying high and staying drunk all the time.
How long did you stay out there and continue doing?
Probably a couple of years in that same grind, and that's taking speed in the morning to get up and get going. Wow. Or hitting. They had a drug called Texas Tea that was like cocaine, but a lot cheaper. The high was half as long. So you'd hit Texas Tea in the morning to get up to get through the day, to do sessions and do whatever, and then get the club that night. And this was 6 nights a week. Yeah. Wow. So finally, a guy came through one night that had a variety show that did Tahoe and Vegas and Reno and all those. And I, at that time, I played sitting sideways on the piano bench and never looked at the keys. And it was kind of a novelty, and I was a young buck. And he dug that and he said, would you be interested in a job? Well, by then I was sick of what I was doing. So I said, yeah. I said, I'll get back with you.
You went to Vegas.
Yeah. Well, he actually lived in Dallas, but he worked all these other venues.
Wow.
So I said it was leading up to Christmas, and so now we rock on a couple of days. Now it's a week before Christmas. Had a big fight in the band. All that blew apart as it always did night after night. And I thought, I've had it. I called him. I said, I'll be there. Let me go home to Arkansas, see my parents, and the next day after Christmas, I'll head to Dallas. Well, I never made that far. I got as far as Barstow. The trailer that I had a Corvette in the trailer, bearing seized up on the trailer, and then the car started breaking down time after time. Spent every dime I had.
Oh, wow.
Finally, I didn't have a coat, didn't own a coat, didn't need one. I lived in L.A. So I get to Oklahoma, and finally, and it's 5 degrees and blowing sleet and snow.
Oh, man.
I don't have a coat. But that's all right. I kept getting, luckily I had enough money, and a record come, somebody come. Well, that time, I was broke. So wired my daddy, lied to him. I said that I'm coming home to get my life right, get saved, which was a lie. I wasn't ever going to get saved as far as I was concerned. He wired the money through Western Union. Guy at the Chevy dealership said, we don't have, he said, this is the day before Christmas. He said, nobody's going to work on this car. But a young guy there, he said, well, I will, I'll stay.
Wow.
So he got me going late. And I'm looking at the map, and I thought, I saw this pig trail. I thought, that's how I need to go to get to Arkansas. So I get in the car. I'm running probably at least 80 or 90. All of a sudden, the car goes dead. Lights go dead. Country road, nothing for miles. No houses, no lights. I'm fighting the car. The car's going sideways and everything with a trailer on it in ice and snow. Finally got it broke down, and I was so put out with God. I hated God then. I hated Christian people. I felt like they were the reason that every bad thing that ever happened to me. I thought that's what did it.
Yeah.
And I literally got out of that car and looked up the sky, and I cussed God with everything I had. I called him everything I could, and I said, I will never serve you as long as I live. Never. Got back in the car. I realized, fool, you're sitting here in a t-shirt and it's 5 degrees. So finally a big truck, there wasn't any traffic. It's Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Big truck comes, I get out, try to flag him down, keeps right on barely. Get back in there. I had done this number on my arms until my muscles were cramping.
Wow.
And I knew I was going to die. I knew it was over.
Yeah, you were going to start freezing.
It was over.
Yeah.
And an old truck, I could see this truck coming. He got close, and it was a 60s model, something in the 60s, Chevrolet, short wheelbase, step side, army green. And I get in the road, and I thought, you'll pick me up or kill me one, because I'm going to die anyway.
Yeah.
So I stopped him. He stops, and when I step back, it was an old 3 on the tree. He puts it in gear, and he takes off, and I'm flipping him. The bird hits the brakes, back. I thought, oh, great, now I got to fight this guy. So he backs up. He said, man, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm broke down. I'm a musician. He said, well, lock your car and get in here. So I wouldn't talk about God then. I hated God. And if people witnessed to me, they were going to get a cussing of their life. I mean, I just wasn't going to talk about it.
Wow.
And he starts asking me about God. Now, you got to mind, I was into the country thing then. So he's in a truck. He's got on a cowboy hat. He's got on fringe on his jacket, tan jacket with a fringe, huge old buckle. I mean, huge. And spurs on his cowboy boots. What? I mean, how could I not love him?
Yeah.
About 6'3", 6'4". He asked me some questions. I said, I don't talk about God. I'm not talking about that. He said, why not? And I said, well, I said, my oldest sister's a cripple. If she could have got therapy, she wouldn't be a cripple. But I said, the church people balked on him, wouldn't help him out, blah, blah, blah. He said, did you not realize if she hadn't had that polio, she would have gotten killed in a car wreck with a bunch of drunk boys? I said, you don't know that. And he didn't say anything else. We keep traveling. Well, by the time the night was over, he pulled I don't know how he did it, but he got me talking about God, got all that poison out. We get to Little Rock. I said, just get me to the bus station. My parents can be here in 2.5 hours. So, sure enough, he pulls out a card. He said, I'm a veterinarian in Warren, Arkansas, and if you ever need me, call me, blah, blah, blah. Do you need money? No, I'm good, thank you. get back to Brooklyn, Arkansas. My parents get there.
Brooklyn, Arkansas.
Brooklyn, 435
Not
people.
New York.
No, 435 people. And all my family, I hadn't seen some of them in years. So I totally forgot about the deal. I had a car in Oklahoma. And I had a job waiting I wasn't going to get to.
Yeah.
And that was all a God thing. So I realized what are you going to do? There was nothing I could do.
Yeah.
So 2 or 3 days later, we're leading up to New Year's Eve. And I'm thinking about this guy. So I thought, I'm going to thank him, man. That's great. And pick up the phone, dial. Operator says, there's no prefix like that in Arkansas. And I said, well, ma'am, the man couldn't be so stupid as to put the wrong number. She said, well, I don't know, but I said, well, what other towns is around Warren, Arkansas? So she starts telling me, I said, run that number. She said, well, I'm just telling you that's not a prefix for Arkansas. I said, well, here's the name. Trace the name down. No tracing the name. I said, what about veterinarian clearing? We went that way. The veterinarian people couldn't do it that way. And all of a sudden, when you're a preacher's kid, you don't think you're listening, but you really are listening more. And that scripture about be aware, some have entertained angels unaware.
Wow.
And the hair stood up on the back of my neck, and I started to cry. And I caught myself, and I thought, you're not going to get me that easy, God.
Wow.
So I realized what had happened. God had saved me, and I didn't have sense enough to know it, but I thought, I'm not going to serve him. I'm not going to do it. And so the next week, got some help, went back to Oklahoma, got my car, but I lost the job. Job was gone.
Yeah.
I'm in this little town, nothing, no industry, nothing. And an old farmer drove a tractor to church, to my daddy's church. And he said, you want a job farming? And I said, no, I don't want a job farming. And I said, what does it pay? He said, $3 an hour. I said, you got to be kidding me, man. I've been living in L.A. But I ended up taking that job. And it had an old radio, AM radio. It would only pick up a gospel station. So it was either preaching or gospel singing. And God was killing me. He was killing me.
Yeah, God wasn't giving up.
No. So he, long story short, he kept working with, and a DJ in the next town, a bigger town, was a rock and roll DJ. Christian. My daddy said he couldn't be a Christian. He's spinning rock and roll. And he's been married 3 times. How could he be a Christian? But he was. And that's the man that planted the seed. That's the man that did it to me.
Wow.
So I get saved, and then within 3 weeks, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. They gave her 3 months to live. And I thought, man, why? God, I've never served you. I give my life to you, now you're going to kill my mother. And that's a long story, but I would get out and pray for that woman on the gravel. Put my face literally on the road and pray for her. And I felt like God was speaking to me. So one night, I'm laying there, and I got my face in the gravel. These old roads, no traffic. You got to remember, 435.
Oh, yeah.
That's not a big town. There's no traffic, especially at midnight.
Right. And
God spoke to me and said, I'm going to take you to the world. And I mean, I heard it like clear. And I thought, take me to the world? What, Long story short, my mother was healed of that cancer. They'd given her 3 months to live with cancer. She was totally healed. And I kept thinking, how will this ever play out? How am I going to go to the world? And years went by and years went by. So that was in 79. And in 2009, Marty Robbins' son, gave me a 33 Plymouth, which I have now. I built. And a magazine picked that up and ran it. And they asked me if I'd write for the magazine. Started writing for the magazine in 2010. And my article that I wrote tripled the readership of that magazine. And they called me one day and said, we've now gone from national to international magazine. We're all over the world.
What is the name of that magazine?
Rat Rod Magazine.
Right.
And then I picked up 2 other magazines. I was writing for 3 magazines. But it dawned on me one day, God said, I'm going to take you to the world. He didn't say how. I thought music. It turned out to be hot rods.
Well, what an amazing story. I just, just sitting here, we're sitting here in a cold garage, but my heart's warmed to know what you've been through and how God has, what was meant for evil, right?
Yeah.
What the enemy would want to destroy you, God ended up using that for good.
He sure did.
Right? I know that song, Love Lifted Me.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering maybe if we could close out this segment with something like that.
Sure.
Love Lifted Me. we're going to hear a little bit of his piano skills, and I'll try and help him on the chorus, but we'll try and sing it here together. I've got it up here somewhere, but yeah.
I don't have an idea of keys.
Love,
Love lifted me.
love lifted me when nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Oh yeah. Love lifted me. Love lifted me when nothing else could help. Love lifted me, and I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore, very deeply stained with sin, seeking to rise no more, right? But the master of the sea heard my despairing cry, and from the waters lifted me. How saving am I? Oh, love lifted me, even me. Love lifted me when nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. Love lifted me when nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Love this guy. God bless y'all. We'll be back with another episode. Join us next week. God bless.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the show. If you guys have any questions, or if you would like to donate and receive the book, please head on over to kennymuck.org/show. Here you can ask us any questions that you might have, as well as make a donation. Thank you so much for watching.